Hello and welcome. This is the Market Wrap. I am Agam Vakil. Well, it's turned out to be a rather volatile session on expected lines, but the positive here is that we haven't closed below some of the crucial levels that a lot of technical analysts are talking about, especially on the benchmark indices. So let's start by taking a look at the Nifty. Well, it's closed down 72 points, positive, above 11,000, and the crucial mark of 10,980. That's what a lot of analysts were waiting and watching, and that the close is above that, and that of course is something to take home too. But let's talk about a little more about the key gainers in today's day of trade. We have Titan, Britannia, Tech Mahindra, Novo and GC advancing in trade. However, as one might expect, because of the sharp gain in crude, we've seen some of these oil marketing companies were bear down on the indices. BPCL right at the bottom of this list, down around 7.3%. We do have some weakness in something like an M&M or a State Bank of India leading, well, putting some weight on the indices as well. And of course, Asian Paints here also being impacted as far as your input costs are concerned. Now, when it comes to the broader markets on the NSE 500, we have nearly a little less than perhaps one gainer for more than one loser. But on Graphite India were locked in an upper circuit, as is the case for HEG. But some of these carbon-based companies are also advancing, and Phillips Carbon is one of them, up 15%. We have Bombay Burma Trading also up and about. eClerx Services, of course, after we understand it is in conversation with a lot of marquee investors at this point, and which is why we've seen that surge of as much as 13.5% there as well. Inox, Wind, Rain Industries all advancing in trade. On the losing end, Equitas Holding is something that we are going to talk about in just a bit. 3M India and of course OMCs have spoken about. G1 Financial Services were falling along with Equitas Holding, and Reliance Nippon, that's down 5%. So overall, this is the state of the market, but we can't not mention oil, and this is the kind of spike that we've seen in crude oil. Now, as you can see, it is at the highest level since, well, December of last year. It's currently at 59.54. So, well, some of these aspects will bear down on the indices. We're going to have to continue to keep an eye on not just crude oil, but their impact on, well, some of the OMCs like Indian Oil Corp, OMs, well, for that matter, BPCL, or for that matter, HPCL. So we'll be watching out for that. And as you can see on your screen there, we do have a gross peak supply loss, and we are keeping an eye on something like 5% of the global oil supply, and we're just waiting and watching as to when we have more news from Saudi Aramco and updates on well, how bad those drone strikes have been and when they can have the full production up. That said, let's shift focus to some of those stocks. And as I was mentioning, we have Equitas Holding, which will be in focus, which has been, and it has seen a little bit of a loss today. And I have Shefali Malik, who's joining us to give us an update on that. Shefali, what is the latest?
Well, two things which impacted Equitas. So basically, SEBI returned the proposal by which the company had submitted with regards to the listing of the small finance bank, right, restructuring and hence the listing. That is one that impacted the stock, and the other thing that impacted the stock is the RBI guidelines for the new small finance bank, the on-tap guidelines. So basically, the SEBI returning the proposal, that is a clear negative for Equitas, because now they will have to take the IPO route, and that increases the holding company discount. The other one, the RBI coming out with draft guidelines for on-tap licensing of small finance banks. So different brokerages are reading that differently with regards to the kind of impact that they may that it may have on both Equitas and Ujjivan. So basically, there was some sort of expectation that if the new guidelines are any softer, and then probably that will open up some room for negotiation for relaxation of the existing guidelines for Equitas and Ujjivan as well. So that hasn't happened. So MK is saying that SFB listing, that is small finance bank listing, and promoter holding guidelines are largely unchanged. So that is a disappointment for Equitas and Ujjivan shareholders. Equitas is saying that no further clarity on reverse merger in the draft. That has been a disappointment, and they expect that to remain as an overhang. So they've downgraded Equitas to reduce and have retained sell on Ujjivan. Nomura is saying that listing via IPO for Equitas, that is is something that was already priced in, but no clarity on reverse merger or promoter exit is a negative. And but Investec and Kotak, however, think that that's not a negative. So according to Investec, RBI will allow a merger between holding company and small finance bank after 5 years of completion. That's how they are reading the RBI statement. And Kotak is also saying that they don't see RBI guideline as a negative, and they are saying that RBI guidelines do not provide full certainty on whether the promoters will be allowed to exit after 5 years, but it does provide likelihood of the same. So that's what brokerages are saying about the same.
Okay, Shivali, thanks for getting us those updates on Equitas. So keep an eye on that one. On that note, I will bring in Sharad Dubey, who's going to give us, tell us about two more stocks which have been focused today. Sharad.
Well, yes, Agam, the first stock I think I'd like to pick up is Prabhat there. It's in the news because of its delisting. Now, I'll just take you through, the situation, when this actually delisting happened. But before that, I would just like to point out, on a year-to-date basis, the stock has lost almost 16%. Now, in the January itself, the company had told that, that they'll sell the dairy business to a subsidiary of French company Lactalis for around 1,700 odd crore rupees, with enterprise value coming in at almost 1,711 odd crore rupees. And then when we see the, gradual fall in the prices, we see in the month of September itself, the board actually, they had actually gone for the approval for delisting of the shares, which the floor price was set at almost 63.8 rupees, which was almost 20% to the discounts as the closing as per the Friday's price. Apart from this, minority shareholders will remain a concern because the price at which the delisting is happening is at a very big discount. Apart from this, the next stock we are talking about is Texmaco Rail and Engineering. The stock was up almost 3.5%. You see over the past 3 trading sessions, the stock ended up almost the day at high at almost 8%. So that was something which you should be looking out for. This is basically on the news that the board has set the rights issue price at almost 46.7 rupees per share to raise almost 200 crores rupees as a capital. And apart from this, the right entitlement ratio stands at almost 19 shares for every 100 shares, with the record date set at September 25. So Agam, these two stocks are buzzing in the mid-cap space today.
Okay, sure. Thanks for getting us those two stocks which are also in focus today. But there is a long week lined up, and there is plenty that can come through as far as global markets go, and the kind of volatility they can bring for Indian markets. And of course, domestically, we're also watching out for several factors, specifically something as far as recovery in the economy is concerned. But I would leave it out here with the fact that there has been an ever so slight gain in a handful of these relatively larger names, and we're going to have to wait and watch whether or not there is a follow through of those gains in tomorrow's market or no. But we're going to keep an eye on that one. And on that note, it's a wrap on the markets, but there's lots more lined up. Stay tuned to Bloomberg.